Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new live stream. I got something really interesting today to share with you, but before we get started with the product page teardown, that's really interesting, let's go through tradition and tell me what's in your cup, where you're from, and we'll go right after. So I'm here in New York City. It's a little bit noisy. Hopefully you can't hear it. It's getting a little bit nicer outside, but I'm drinking some mint tea in my Appfigures mug. Tell me where you're from, and let's get started. For the record, this is the first tea of the day. Many more to come. Let's see. Ooh, we got Poland in the house. As we do, we're international again. Upstate New York with coffee. Nice. Not very far from me. Florian says he hasn't talked to me in a long time. I know, it's been forever. I met Florian at a conference a few years ago, I believe, and we've talked on Twitter. X, not Twitter. I know. Coffee in Canada, Turkey, North Shore, Minnesota, England, Germany, Israel, Morocco. That's kind of cool. I almost drank Moroccan mint today. This is just regular mint. I should have known had I known. Although I do have a tea hack if you're into it. You can try any tea you want, but what I learned recently is that if you use reverse osmosis for your water, the tea is significantly better. This is probably for a different kind of a video, but because we're here, I'm just going to share. I switched and I love it. I think that's the way to do it. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to go through apps submitted by you, as I always do. And we're going to look at not just the name and the subtitle, which is normally what I look at looking for keywords, but also the screenshots. I did a screenshot teardown a few months ago, and that was amazing, and people loved it. And it really changed how people do their screenshots, and many have gotten more downloads, which is amazing. But they really all work together, especially as you start getting beyond just the keywords and beyond just the Apple search ads campaign. Sorry, the Apple ads campaigns that changed yesterday. Once you get beyond that, you start thinking, but what is my conversion? And all of those work together. Yes, the name, the keywords in the name, and the keywords you have in your screenshots actually work together to get you a download. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to do that also twice, back to back. So I'm doing this now. I'm also doing another one of these next Wednesday, same time. You'll get an email about it, but two chances to enter and potentially get your app on the big screen. If you haven't submitted your app, there is a link in the description below. Go submit it. It's not going to get picked up today, but it might get picked up next week. And if you submitted your app already and it didn't get picked today, you have another chance. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I have not done a back-to-back in a long time, and I think that's going to be fun. Hopefully it is. And if it is, maybe we'll do it again. We'll see. So why am I going to do the name, the subtitle, and the actual screenshots? And that's because when a user lands on your app, eventually on your product page, if you did your App Store optimization properly, that's a word, or if you did your Apple search ads, Apple ads campaign, I will learn your Apple ads campaign properly, a user will land on your product page. But will they actually download your app? And that's a question that the answer is not always yes. Even in good cases, the conversion there is not 100%. The bestest of cases are not 100%, which is kind of crazy. So we're going to look through today for all the things that make users actually download beyond finding your app. So finding your app is one, downloading your app is the other. I picked 8 apps. I'm going to try and get through all of them. Let's see if I can do it. And as always, ask your questions in the chat. I will do my best to answer them as I go through these. And if you want to contribute anything else, please do. So let's go to my computer and see what I have open. I have Keyword Inspector open because we're going to use it at some point. But for now, let's see if we can get to app 1. So app 1, and these were chosen randomly from almost 100 apps that were submitted over the last week. It's crazy. This is Do Everything, Tasks and Journal. Now, as I always do, I don't look at these ahead of time. I try to do everything in real time so you see how I think and you see what goes through my head as I analyze these. If I miss anything, if this is your app and I miss something because I'm doing this in real time, please drop something in the chat. Let me know and I will try to address it. So I have my chat open. Do I have my chat open? Where did my chat go? Where did my chat go is the new where's my mouse. I'm getting better at the mouse thing. Okay, let's see. So do everything, tasks, and journal, planner, notes, and reminders. And then our screenshots are pretty straightforward. Plan your day, stay focused, journal to reflect and grow, revisit your journey in a beautiful timeline, create notes to remember things, create lists to organize your life. Why not? If you're making notes, you should make your lists your own, okay? Share lists to get things done together, use subtasks to tackle big goals, beautiful widgets to stay on track. Okay, interesting. Now, the first thing that came to mind when I saw this was this is not the app I think about when I think about this icon. There is an app with almost the exact same icon that I used a long time ago, and I'm pretty sure this is not it. So step number one, what I'm seeing here, and I bet you if, okay, let's go into Keyword Inspector. The first problem is to-do list. I'm pretty sure all the icons look almost identical. Yeah, that's pretty much the case. So they're all just check marks. And while nice, and you may want to feel like you're fitting in by using an icon from an app that is working, it also means your app is kind of invisible. All these apps are pretty much the same. Now, they're at the top, so they're going to get all the visibility. You're not at the top. So really what you want to do is you want to be a little bit different, stand out, maybe a different color. So green and a check mark, green and a check mark. I would stay away from this. I think this is not something that would help you in the long run. So that's already step number one. That could lead to confusion. And that confusion, you might think, but if they're confused about an app that is not mine and is popular, and they see mine, maybe they'll download it. I don't think that ends up being the case most of the time because you're not going to rank high enough for the people to actually see it. So I think that's problem number one. And the reason why I say this is because the icon is one of the most important things when it comes to search. That's what people see initially. It's not going to be the thing that makes them not download your app ultimately, but it might be the thing that makes them not click on your app. And so it's super important to look at that. The other thing that I see on this list is that you need a bunch of ratings to actually rank for to-do list. And so if you have to-do list in any of your keywords, you're going to need a lot of ratings, which we're not seeing here. So really what I would do is do less. And this is something that I've been talking about a whole bunch over the last few live streams, is your keywords need to be focused. They need to be mega focused on what you're trying to do. And if you're trying to do tasks and journal and everything and planner and notes and reminders, that is not focus. That is the opposite of focus. What is the opposite of focus? I don't know, but that is not focus. So what you want to do is you want to find one of these where you can potentially get in, maybe through a long tail keyword like some specific reminders or custom lists or custom to-do lists. Let's see if that's a real thing. I'm just riffing here, so let's take a look. Custom to-do lists. If that's not a 5, then we're in business. If that is a 5, I would stay away from it. Well, let's see what's in here. Do next, simple tasks manager. So if this is not a 5, this is an opportunity. Jump right on it. It's updating in real time. We'll let that. No, it's a 5. Okay. Just kidding. But that's the process I would go through to try and identify keywords to use. So let's say that happens and the keywords get focused on something that is a little bit more attainable. Now the real question is, what do you do with the screenshots? So here's the problem, and this is something that I see with a bunch of apps, and I bet you will see it with a bunch of other apps in this group that I have selected, and that is your keywords, what you're telling the algorithm and also people that your app does, is not exactly reflected in your screenshots immediately. And you might be thinking, who cares, it's screenshots, it's totally different, but it isn't. People are looking for continuity. So do everything, tasks and journal. And then the first item on this list is revisit your journey on a beautiful time. No, that's actually not the first screenshot. Is plan your day to stay focused. But the word plan does not exist in the name. Maybe it did at some point and it made sense, but it doesn't anymore. And so now you have this this disconnect between the screenshot and the name. And in many people's minds, what that means is, I'm not going to follow this. I'm just going to look at the pretty pictures. The only thing is the pretty pictures rarely actually tell a story, especially not when you resize them to that point. So I think that's one of the challenges that you have when you design your screenshots and when you work on your metadata. They have to align. And when they align, everything works a little bit better. In the chat flow saying, can you show us a page that looks better? Let's take a look. Let's see if any of the competitors for to-do do a good job. So let's look for a to-do list, which we saw already. And let's take the top 3 results. Top 2 results, because that's too many things anyway. Now let's go top 3. Let's go top 5 and see what they do. So we have a tool inside of our competitor intelligence tool, a tool that shows you all of their creatives. It's pretty convenient, and it saves me having to go into the App Store and to Google Play a million times. Also shows me if they have a video really quickly. So Todoist has a video, which we can see. Social proof, that's nice. Inbox is a to-do list, so it makes sense that you're starting with a to-do item. A whole bunch of other things. Microsoft. The fact that Microsoft is so up high is just mind-boggling for me. I mean, great, kudos, that's awesome, but it's not what I would expect. So again, showing the to-dos right up front. Minimalist does not have one. Structured has one. Let's see what Structured does. Planning your day. And if you noticed it, it says planning your day, and look at the name. The name is Daily Planner. So again, you have this continuity going through. And then Do does not have a video. And let's go into the screenshots. So Structured, Daily Plan your day. Minimalist, colored lists, interactive widgets. I don't like anything that I see on here. Microsoft, To-Do, Daily Planner, it's Microsoft. But also, you see a to-do list. It's very immediate and in your face. And that's why they had to take up probably 2 screenshots, because they wanted to really make that big. If it was just a small screen, it wouldn't have worked. And if you look through these screenshots, I kind of like the way they cut the iPhone here in a way that still allows you to focus and you get to see something. But at the same time, you still see that it's an iPhone. It's not too zoomed in. And that's always a challenge, especially now. Let's see what Todoist does. Organize work and life. Organize work and life, finally, and you see a list. Achieve more every day. So questionable, but this is better than killing the continuity. Now, one cool thing that I see here is that you have social proof built right in. And that's something that we see more and more apps do these days, because there's just a bunch of apps for pretty much every possible intent you can think of. So it's really more about not just you need my app, it's you need my app. There are many apps, but you should use mine. And a very easy way to suggest that they should use yours is if you say, but everyone else uses it, but Apple loves it. Now, one trick that I've seen that I would recommend if you don't have an app of the day, or if your app wasn't featured, or if your app wasn't in a billion magazines, or even 4, you can take your reviews, take your best reviews, your shortest reviews, and include them in your first screenshot, because reviews are still people and people are social proof. It's kind of a hack. If your app is rated, I would say more than 1,000 ratings, you can put that on the first screenshot as well. If the average is high enough, I would say more than a 4.3 or a 4.4, probably even more than a 4.5, then put that on the screenshot as well, because that's saying not only are thousands of people liking my app, they also rate it well. So they really like it. It's not just that they exist. And if it's very low, if it's 100 or 200, don't do that. I think we've seen that on a previous live stream where someone put just a handful of hundreds, and that feels very small. That feels pretty bad in my opinion. So if you don't have any of those things, don't do it. Clearly, don't say my mom loves it because I'm amazing. I don't think that's going to help you, but work towards that. And as soon as you have that, turn that on. Okay, let's go back and see what we have. So this was do everything. Now, one thing that I do like about this is I like the simplicity of what's going on here. And I do like the fonts. The fonts play a major role in what's happening. And so if you select the right fonts, and I have a guide for how to select the right fonts for your screenshots, and we'll link to it later in the description, that's super important. And hopefully we'll see an app where the fonts don't align, and then I can show you why they don't align. I mean, hopefully all the fonts are great, but realistically, we're going to see one. So that's what I would choose. Now, theming your app after pretty much every other app, again, while you think it might be useful, it really isn't. Your app should have a personality, and your personality should be what makes it unique. If you copy that personality from someone else, it's going to be very difficult. So one, you need to get more visibility because there just aren't enough ratings to prop you to a place where you can be seen. And the way to do that is aim for a much smaller place, less competitive, especially if it's a keyword opportunity where the top results don't have the keyword in the name. And then once you do that, you'll start growing your ratings. Make sure you ask for the rating. I can't stress that enough. That's what happens on pretty much every conversation, I have with any developer. Any call that I do, any live stream that I do, it's always make sure you ask for the rating. So do that, and I think that will help you convert better once you align your keywords and your screenshots. Let's see. What do we have in the chat? A question from the chat is if this is going to be, if instant replay will be available later. Yes, you can watch this as soon as it's done. You can watch this at any time you want. That's really the great thing about YouTube and live streaming on YouTube, and why I switched away from Zoom years ago. So you can watch this at any time. You can watch it later and actually play it faster. It all works. But okay, let's continue. So what do we have now? Hike Maker. Unlimited walking routes. Okay, interesting. The first thing I thought about when I saw this icon was a carabiner, and I thought that was more of a mountain climbing thing, but now I get it. I totally get it. And this is a kind of a unique icon, so I like it. Hike Maker, pretty focused. I think that's good. Unlimited walking routes. Okay, that's good. We're gonna have to look into what's happening. Let's see if walking routes is an important or interesting keyword. Okay, no, it's a 5. And let's see, where were we? What do we get here? Let's see. Hike Maker. I'm trying to find what the keyword, like what's the intent? What am I going to look for in order to find Hike Maker? Hike routes, maybe? Let's see. Updating in real time as always. The real-time updates are a great chance for me to drink some tea. And also read the chat. If you want to ask a question, ask it in the chat. I'm reading it. It's here, my chat. Okay, no. So hike routes is 5. So this is challenge number 1 that I see. We're not really targeting any important keywords. Now, you might be saying, I want to start with long tail. I want to start with something that's more achievable based on the number of ratings. I can see that happening. But aim for something a little bit bigger in that case, and try to also aim for multiple keywords. So there isn't really a lot going on here. Maker is maybe, let's see if anyone is looking for Hike Maker. Oops. Hike Maker. Okay, that's a 13. Not terrible. But what I would do is then find additional keywords that are relevant for hiking. I can't think of any in the moment, but hiking is actually one of them. The algorithm doesn't know the difference between hike and hiking, or it doesn't know that they're similar. So if you just type in hiking, it's not going to find Hike Maker. But let's see if hiking is actually more. Yep, hiking is definitely more interesting, a 35. So I would definitely use something like hiking in this. I don't know if I would make it into the name, because Hike Maker, if that is the brand we're going for, I think that's going to be kind of funny. Hike Maker, hiking. But I would recommend doing a little bit more keyword research, because there just isn't enough here for the algorithm to find you. And then once you find this, again, we're going through the same thing. So our screenshots are easily find new routes around you. And this screenshot looks very familiar. This is Central Park. This is literally steps away from me. Cool. Bonus points. No, I'm joking. The algorithm doesn't know where I live, but it's interesting. It's cool to see this map, and it's cool to see something recognizable. I wonder if there is any value in localizing what you see here based on the country. Because outside of the US, I don't know if it will be as easy to identify this as Central Park. I don't know if even in the US it's going to be as easy to identify it as Central Park. I can identify it because when I go on a walk or when I go for a run, it literally looks like this on the map for me. So that kind of makes sense. But that's a good starting point. I I don't think this will work as well for conversion because, again, we're not taking the main intent and funneling it through. We're kind of expecting that someone read everything else, know what to expect, and I was saying, okay, but what do the features look like? And that's a good distinction because I think most people are not going to do that. Maybe B2B apps, maybe something with very specific use cases will do it. Like, I don't know, I can't really think of anything, but in the B2C and the B2C space, the consumer space, you need to repeat things. You need to continue the flow of thought as opposed to expect that there will be a flow of thought, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'll rephrase it later, I promise. But again, what I would do here is show some social proof. Show something used by 1,000 people, used by 10 people, maybe not 10 people. Anything above 1,000 is probably a good number, but use information to show that something else is going on. Now, another interesting point that that Frank just told me about. Frank helps me behind the scenes. He makes all the magic happen. And he told me, is anyone really hiking in New York City? You're really walking in New York City. It's a very good point. I think if you want to hike, you should probably hike a hikeable trail. But maybe this is the goal of the app. The app is just to show you walking routes. I'm not entirely sure. But that's it. There's confusion. So I would simplify and maybe explain what the app is in the first screenshot. The first screenshot is a lot of visual real estate. You can really use it to nail the point home of what is this app and why do you need it. Now, my eye got attracted to this, save your favorites, but this is not how you would say favorites in the US. This is how you would say favorites in England, I'm pretty sure, or maybe in English that is not the US. Now, this is the US description. So this is a problem. When I see something like this, and maybe the goal is not to have this in the US, but if that's the case, why Central Park in the first screenshot? If that's the case, I would localize my screenshot. Even something as small as favorites versus favorites with a U could throw me off. If I'm looking at this, I now believe that this is not an app made for Americans. Now, not me personally, but me as a user, it just wouldn't work out for me. And my mind maybe even subtly just shift away from this to something else. Now, if you worked very hard to get a download or to get people to your product page and they leave because of a single letter, you're doing something really wrong. So that's something that you can fix. And if you want a deeper dive into what I just said, localizing between countries and between cultures, there is a live stream that I did a couple of years ago with a company that does A/B testing for Google, and they did something similar for Google Maps. And they saw that when they include a double-decker bus for England versus an American bus in England, they get different conversion rates. The double-decker does a lot better than the bus that doesn't feel like it belongs. So that's what's giving me the confidence to say, really fix this. Fix. The other thing is there's a lot going on here. And I think the maps are really nice. They're colorful. They're easy to look at, but it's very, very dense. The text is very close to the edges. So when I look at this, I don't necessarily want to read it. And that's another problem. If the user doesn't necessarily want to read what you're showing them, why even show them this to begin with? So what I would do here is, one, look for more keywords that probably revolve around hiking more so than hike. This will get you a little bit more visibility. Aim for long tail, so don't aim for a very high popularity keyword, but even hiking was a 35, so I imagine you can find some keywords, hiking maps, hiking trails, hiking routes, something like that. Let's take a quick look, that are probably going to be lower. Hiking routes. Okay, that's a 5, maybe not as good. Hiking maps. Okay, not as good. Hiking tracker. Okay, hiking tracker, 22. We're getting somewhere. And this is not intuitive to me at all. Like, I would not imagine that hiking tracker is something people would look for, but the data speaks for itself. And that's why we base everything we do here on data. Hiking tracking, that just sounds funny in my head, so I have to try it. And a good time to drink some tea. But that's the process I would go through. And as you go through that process, you will identify more keywords, and then more keywords will get you to a point where you can get some visibility. So if you're aiming for, and there's a question in the chat about what's a good popularity score. And the answer is, it's hard to determine. There are going to be segments of apps in the app stores, and the same for games, that are either incredibly sought out, so the popularity even for the keywords that are not as good is going to be very high, and there are going to be segments where even the highest popularity is going to be very low. So the right popularity is, it really depends on who you're competing with and what you're competing on. You have to know what you're competing on. That's why everything that I do usually starts in Keyword Inspector, my favorite tool, and Keyword Inspector will show you what you really need to be thinking about. So you will see the popularity, you will get to see the ratings, and between those two, that's what's going to make the determination. Now, I know that some people believe that you just know what's going to work in terms of keywords, and that rarely backfires, or that rarely works and usually backfires. So what I would recommend is always start with the data. The data is really the easiest way to do it. Now, in terms of minimums, if we're going to ask for a number, I try to stay away from fives. The reason I try to stay away from fives is in the algorithm, 5 is the lowest. 5 is the catch-all for someone may have searched for it. Maybe, I think so. It's a keyword, so it must have happened once. And that's just not good enough for most of the searches, with a few exceptions. The way popularity score works is it is not linear, meaning that the algorithm tries to compress the popularity of something like Instagram, which is 100, and something that no one searched for or searched for once in a lifetime. And so between those, you will have a range that you couldn't plot on a linear graph. It just doesn't work. And so when it's normalized into a 1 to 100, which seems linear, the skips between them are really big. So the amount of traffic you will get on a 5 is drastically different than a 6, drastically different than an 8, drastically different than a 20, drastically, not just incrementally. And so that's why I try to stay away from 5s. But really, anything with single digits is still okay. A 9, a 10, not ideal, not ideal at all, but still okay because you want to get a first place. Really, that's what you want to aim for. You don't want to be number 7 or 8 or 10 on 20 popularity if you can be a number 1 or 2 on a 7 popularity. And I know that might seem counterintuitive, but you want visibility. Most people don't search beyond the top 5, and top 5 is me being generous, especially these days, where you can promote an in-app purchase and you can have a live activity, and what an in-app activity, and what that does is takes up more visual space on the iPhone. So really what you want to be doing is aim for anything that isn't a 5 where you can be 1 or 2. That should be your goal to get things started. Now, once you have more ratings and you can be more competitive, the strategy changes a little bit. But until then, that's how I go about it. It's not easy and it's not fun, but once you can master it, and it's mainly a process, an iterative process of trying things and then trying them again when they work or when they don't work, and eventually you will get more downloads. I'm doing this now with an AI app that is slowly climbing through the ranks, and it's just a slow process, but once you get to that position, you're going to get more ratings, you're going to get more visibility, and that will allow you to go compete over bigger terms. So hopefully that answers the question of what to do. Now, I did say tools are the best way to do it, and I usually put my money where my mouth is. Mouth where money is? No, whichever one. So I'm going to offer a discount code for Appfigures because I know you need the tools. We're going to offer 20% for 2 months on Optimize and above, which is all the tools you need to do what I'm doing right now. We'll drop a link to that in the chat so you have access to it, and it's going to go through next week until we do this again. So if you're going to ask me after the live stream, can I get a discount? The answer is yes, and it's here, and it's going to be in the chat because that's going to happen anyway. So let's go back and skip to app number 3 on my list. And that is Base Equalizer Volume Booster. So this might seem like a silly app, but I have looked at this before. Not this particular app, there's this niche, and this is popular for some reason. I mean, I get it. I understand why. I just didn't expect it would be popular. So if you look at something like Volume Booster here, Volume Booster, it's a 53. Hiking is a 35, just to put that in perspective. Isn't that crazy? And look at that. Look at that competitiveness. It's one of the lowest competitiveness scores that I've seen in a long time. This is an interesting opportunity if you know how to do audio on the iPhone, or on Google Play. So let's see what Base Equalizer Volume Booster does. Number one, this icon looks like a very generic thing that you copied and pasted from one of the keyboards. I'm not saying that in a mean way. I know it sounds like it. The only problem is it feels unfinished, it feels unpolished, and design will do that to you. I'm not a good designer myself, but I know the value of polishing a design until it's ready. And I know when it's ready, and it's really, really hard. The only thing is, it's the kind of thing you need in order to stand out. If you can do it, find someone who can do it. There are many, many great icon designers on X, I almost said Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Reddit. Find them, it's worth it. Don't go on Fiverr. I think that's going to be a mistake. You could use ChatGPT. I don't know how great it will look, but I believe it will look more polished. And that's what you want to do, especially when you're competing over a keyword popularity of 53. So you have to put your best foot forward. Step number one. The other thing is, there are a lot of problems that I see in this keyword set, and they're easy fixes for the most part, but they require a little bit more research. So what I was saying before about focus, Base Equalizer Volume Booster, Boost and Max Sound Amplifier, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So Volume Booster, we saw that was pretty good at 53. Let's see if Base Equalizer, which we are telling the algorithm is more relevant for this app, is better. It is not. I wish I had a soundboard to go. So what we're doing here in this particular keyword set is we're putting the less relevant keyword not only up front where it's most important, but we're also diluting the value of the more important keyword, which is Volume Booster. So what I would do in this case is I would focus my entire keyword set on Volume Booster. I don't really know how you can do that. You have to go and rework what you're aiming for. And the reason I say this is because there isn't a clear brand here. So I would add a clear brand, make it very, very short, 4 characters if you can, 3 if you could. That would be amazing. I don't know if that's possible. Swap that. So Volume Booster, colon name of your app, or dash name of your app, or by name of your app. That's going to give you an amazing boost already. Now, you don't have enough ratings, so it's not going to be visible instantly, and I don't think it will make it into number 1 overnight. Let's see what number 1 is, because I didn't look before. So you see, Volume Booster. And this app even duplicates, which is terrible, with 57 ratings. So you might stand a chance if you get a few ratings, a handful of ratings. And if you can't get a handful of ratings on your own, use Apple ads. It is worth it. Just make sure you do it right. Don't spend too much money. Make sure you understand your conversion rate. Check on it and do it well. If you don't know how to do Apple ads, you haven't done it before, and it seems intimidating, and it's a really easy way to shred your money and not see any results. If that scares you, I made a video, a step-by-step tutorial on how to set up your first campaign, where I talk about all these things, and I'm coming out with another video very soon about how to optimize in a way that wouldn't burn your money. So we'll drop a link to that in the description later as well, so you can watch that video. Super easy, step-by-step, and you can get that started, but make sure that you're asking for a rating. You have to have the ratings prompt. So after all this, we focused the keywords on Volume Booster. We changed the icon to just look more polished. The screenshots. Bass Booster, Volume Booster, AI Sound Amplifier, Hearing Aid, Equalizer, and that's it. We only have 4 screenshots. Not terrible, because you might think there isn't much to really talk about here, but there is. Why do you need a bass booster? Why do you need a volume booster? I don't understand why I need a volume booster. So even if I land on this, I may see it and I may think, cool, but I may not download it and that's because I know that most apps will make money somehow. Maybe it's through a subscription, maybe it's something else, maybe it's ads. And it's possible this app is totally free, but in my mind and in everyone's minds, there is some sort of a transaction that's going to happen. So I need to be sold in order to continue. That's really what it is. But beyond that, you can use the screenshots to do that. You can use the screenshots to tell me why I need a volume booster. Does the iPhone really not have good enough volume? Does it need a boost? I don't know, like usually when I slide my volume, I don't slide all the way up, and I still get it. So I imagine there are maybe music that is too low, maybe audio video that is too low, and you can use this to bump it up. And if that's the case, that's perfect. Show it to me. Like show it to me to my face, and my face will be happy. The other thing is, like I said for pretty much every other app before, use some sort of social proof if you can. If not, show humans using this. Any app that is used by humans in a way that isn't specifically in-app, and in this case it's through your ears, would benefit from having a person be in it. You should test it because A/B testing on the App Store is really easy. Test it, and I bet you will see better results almost instantly. You do need some traffic, so do everything else we talked about before you do that, but that's what I would do. And then reorganize your screenshots so the volume is the first thing that people see once they follow through from the name into the keyword, into the description. Wow, I'm really off today. Into the screenshots, and that will work. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I can dig into this a little bit more. But, oh, actually, no, I said I would love to find a place where the fonts matter. So these fonts feel so default to me. I'm not sure what they are off the top of my head, but they're a little bit pointy and a little bit chubby, which is not friendly and not serious. And between those two, I think I'm a little bit lost. Now, picking fonts is super hard. Picking the right fonts is even harder. I found an interesting hack, and that is I use ChatGPT to look at an image, give it the tone I'm looking for, and say suggest a free font from Google Fonts, and it will do that. It's not going to be amazing. You're going to have to do some trial and error, but I ask it always to recommend 3 different fonts, and usually one of them works really well. So the tone I would want for something like this is straightforward, simple, not too friendly. This is not a game. Not too serious. This is not a financial app. Somewhere in the middle. And I think if you do that, you're going to get a great font. It's going to be free. Always read the terms of the fonts you use. Don't just use fonts you find on the internet. Don't ask me how I know it was expensive. So don't do that. Use Google Fonts. They're free. You can use them in any of the things you build for free. They have that in the license. And ChatGPT knows them pretty well because they're all open. So that's what I would do for Base Equalizer Volume Booster. I would love to see this succeed. If any of you do any of the things that I recommend, please tell me. I would love to know how they go. Even if they backfired, that's happened before. It's all of this is iterative, and all of this is you try something and you see what happens, and then either you double down or you undo. So I would love any sort of real experience that you drive that you get from this. Please let me know. You can find me on email. You can find me on X. I'll drop all my socials and stuff in the description as always, so you can get to see me. What else? Oh, before we continue, I should do this because I always forget. But if you like what you're seeing, show me, tell me. I love seeing that you like it. I love seeing the likes on videos. Please make sure that the algorithm knows as well, because we're talking about optimizing, and that's kind of the currency of YouTube. Help me get my videos more visibility. We've been getting more visibility, actually, and subscribers are growing faster in 2025 than they have before, which is amazing. I have a goal. We're going to get there, but let's continue. Okay, so the next one up is Manage Subscriptions Orbit. That's kind of cool. I've seen a whole bunch of these apps that help you manage your subscriptions, like your Netflix subscriptions and whatever else you have, mostly because a lot of people start a free trial and never cancel it. And that's normal, and it happens all the time, especially with streaming services that make it so easy to start a trial and never finish it. So let's take a look. Manage Subscriptions Orbit Monthly Expense Tracker. I kind of like what's going on here so far. I think that's a good idea. Managed subscriptions, I imagine, is the term for this niche. I can't think of any better way to say it. Well, let's take a quick look. A 29, so not terrible, not amazing, but not terrible. But then again, this may not be the kind of niche that has a 60 popularity or an 80 popularity. They're super hard to come by, because Instagram and TikTok and VPNs all command that. So we have Rocket Money, Bills and Budgets, Cancel Subscription, Manage Subscription, Bobby, interesting. And let's see if this app is anywhere at the top. No, it is not. Okay, this is interesting. It's an interesting keyword. Oh wow, the algorithm really doesn't like orbit. Or really doesn't know orbit, that's what I mean. Unless I missed it with my eyes. Did I miss it? I did not miss it. Okay, interesting. So we have some opportunities here. That's good. The one thing that I see immediately is, while I get orbit because it's recurring, I think that might be a little bit too clever for an icon. So I may want to think about that. I don't know how important this is, I'll be honest, because in this case, there aren't that many competitors, and it kind of looks like the top competitor is the app that is just the most popular in general in the financial world because they spend a lot of money on ads. So what I would do here is try to focus even more. Manage subscriptions, Orbit, monthly expense tracker. No, that's actually kind of good. This is not terrible. I think the real challenge is going to be ratings. If I had to guess, I would imagine these 42 ratings didn't come in the last 30 days. And so for the algorithm, you really are kind of equal to this, to manage subscriptions subpay, which is very, very similar. I don't know why they managed to get here. I mean, I can see why they managed to get here, and that's because they have managed subscriptions in the name. So do you. So in theory, that should happen. I think maybe a little bit of a push is going to get it up very high. For some reason, the algorithm doesn't see it at all. So either something is really wrong, like there's manage or subscriptions in the keyword list. And if that's the case, remove them, and that could help you. And if that's not the case, I think you need just a small push, maybe Apple ads, something similar, or maybe some promotion outside of the App Store, on Reddit, on something like that to get you going. But then let's see what the screenshots are saying. No more surprise renewals. Never forget to cancel free trials. Track everything in Orbit. Review, cancel, save money. I like this. I think this is actually not bad. I think discovery is probably the major issue here, or the bigger issue here, more so than conversion. I should have asked in the submission form for the conversion rate, and then I could compare it against the benchmark, but I didn't. Maybe I will for next week. But I bet you this is not a poorly converting page. And if it is, the only reason why I think that would happen is, again, that's social proof. This is something that has to do with your money, so you might have to link a bank account or link something in order for it to know. And I don't know how everyone feels, but I know for the most part, anything that has that high friction is going to be a little bit more problematic unless you show social proof, a lot of ratings, some advertising, something where it seems like you're a serious app. So that's what I would do. The other thing is, speaking of serious, I would rethink the font selection here, because it doesn't feel as serious as I would like for it to feel, as I would expect. So for example, this is kind of thin, and thin can be problematic. Thin and tall might be more authoritative, and the designers in the crowd, you can talk to them about this, or read my guide, or ask ChatGPT. But I need more authority when I look at something like this. Now, this is a micro optimization. This by itself is not going to get you more downloads. You need to have more traffic, and then once you have more traffic, that conversion will go up. And if you get 100 people to your page view, and instead of converting 30 of them, you can convert 40, now you have a pretty decent uptick in number of actual downloads, and those can turn into paying users. So once you have the traffic, doing these little things is really, really important. And that's what good developers do all the time. Just iterate and iterate and iterate. So let's see if there's anything interesting in the chat, because something caught my eye. After Design says, many people who would think this would find the screenshots too technical. And I kind of get it. There's a lot going on. It's not terrible, but there's definitely more going on than I think. If I wanted to really do a great job with the screenshots, I would simplify the crap out of them. Like really, really simplify. How is this going to make me anything? Is this going to make me more money? It's not really going to make me more money, but a penny saved is a penny earned. So it will. Show me all the different ways. Make me think about how this would work. And so I wouldn't call this technical, but I would call this a little bit, there's just a lot going on. The thing is, on the iPhone, you see these full screen, so it looks a little bit bigger, but on here, it's kind of hard. But the important thing is really, really, really focus. Tell the story, make it simple, use more authoritative fonts. And I think that's going to work a little bit better in converting. But again, you need the traffic, so make sure that you're working on getting more ratings and getting to a point where the algorithm sees you. Now, what I would do for this, because I couldn't find the app in the first 3 pages of the search results, even though the name is proper, everything is focused, like everything looks good for me here, to me here, so something else must be going on. I don't know what it is. If I were you, what I would do is I would go into keyword performance and track all of the keywords that have to do with managed subscriptions and with Orbit, as many as possible, just so you can get an idea of what's going on. Maybe something is missing, maybe there's a duplication somewhere, like something here is off by a tiny, tiny bit. If you email me, I'll give you more thoughts on this, because I think it's probably something really small, and then once you fix it, you're gonna see a bunch more success with App Store optimization. So let's do that. And let's see what we got in the chat. I have ignored the chat for too long. So what do we have in the chat? We have the promo code that Frank put in. Thank you, Frank. And please use this. If you ask me for a promo code, this is going to be it. So you're seeing this here. And if you're seeing this after the live stream, it's probably going to still work for about a week. So use it. Nurex is saying hello. Hello, Nurex. Kevin is asking, can you explain more about focus? Would you ever want to go so extreme as to just use one keyword in the title, another in the subtitle, and a third in the keywords field? Maybe. I think that's very focused. I don't know if focus is the right word for something like this. I think the real challenge would be which keyword do you go for. If you could find a way in which your app can be the name of the app, the full name, the whole title is one keyword. So let's say your app is a backgammon game. Backgammon game. That sounds funny. A backgammon game. If you can make your app just backgammon, yes, absolutely do that. You don't need anything else. You don't need backgammon dash play and have fun. You don't need backgammon dash challenge your friends. No one cares about that. And you will see that in chess. Most of the chess apps try to do that, but because they can't, because the names are unique in the App Store and Google Play, they will use some sort of a character. Let's see if we can find something like this, just so I can give you an idea of how this works. I haven't looked at chess in a long time, but last time I did, that's what it looked like. It looked like. So you see chess with this little ASCII characters, one of them. Chess, just plain chess. This app has been here probably for 1 million years. Yep, 16 years. So that's really the only way in which it can have a single keyword. Chess Online Plus, Chess Royale. So most of these are aiming for something really, really, really tight. And that's what you would want to do. I think if we look at Solitaire, it's the same thing. I haven't looked at this in a long time either, but Solitaire, single keyword, number 1. What else do we have here? Solitaire with this little ASCII character is another one of these examples, and I bet you this app has been here for a while. Yeah, 9 years. So that's why this is happening. So to answer your question, Kevin, yes, if you could find a keyword that is so important, that is so competitive, that you can target as the full name of the app, go for it. There's really no reason to say no to that. Realistically, that's not going to happen. So make sure it's as short as possible. That's where I would go about it. Now, the reason I say focus is because the algorithm reads everything you have in your app's name, subtitle, keyword list, short description on Google Play. And what it needs to do is it needs to figure out what are you most important for. And if most splits across 4 different things that it thinks are different and separate, then most is going to be problematic. And that's where you can fall into, oh, but I have this in my name, but I'm not ranking for it. So that's why you want to focus. Hopefully that answers the question. Let's see what's going on. Another question from the chat. Should you not duplicate keywords from the title into subtitle or keywords? Absolutely not. That's a cardinal sin of ASO. Never duplicate. It just wastes everything. Michael saying, I found a focus approach worked the best in secondary localization. I put a single keyword in my Spanish title and rank boosted from 187 to 57. You see, that works really well. Apple in general in the US has 10 different languages that it indexes. And so it's not necessarily that it's because it's in a localization or in a secondary localization. It worked. So good. Do that too. Let's see if we can get any more apps. We have what? Less than 10 minutes. Let's give it a shot, see what happens. The next one on this list is Anxiety and Panic Relief by Calmer. Mental health, stress, and sleep. I've seen a huge just barrage of apps that have to do with mental health making their way into the App Store over the last couple of years, which kind of makes sense. Calm did really, really well. Headspace did really, really well for a long time. They're getting pushed really hard, so that's why they're doing well, but it seems very lucrative. Meditation, anxiety, mental health, stress. And so you're coming into a very crowded territory at this point. And I see 3 ratings, so either this is a newish or still trying to pick up steam. And so tough competition. That's what I'm going to say. Now, when there is tough competition, focus is your key. Make sure you focus on one thing. There's a lot going on here. Anxiety, panic, stress, sleep, mental health. Now, they're all similar. And in most minds, they would even fall into the same bucket. But when it comes to the algorithm is not a person. And so it needs to find the best results for whatever it is that the user searched for. If there are too many things going on in your metadata, it's going to be difficult for it to see you and highlight you, because there might be an app that's more focused and the algorithm might think that that app is more applicable in that case. And that's what we're trying to do here. Now, thanks to the localization tip, that when we know that in the US there are 10 languages, 10 localizations that are being indexed, you could use different localizations for different types of keyword sets, which I highly recommend doing. I have a guide on that. I will link it in the description. It's actually one of the most read guides over the last few years, so definitely worth reading. But in here, I would highly recommend trying to focus this on something. Maybe it's anxiety relief, maybe it's panic relief. You know what we're going to do by this point. Panic relief. Yes. Panic relief is a 5. Oh, wow. Anxiety relief. Okay, now we're talking. So that's totally different. So here what's happening is we're taking a keyword that is actually popular, a 35, and we're splitting it by putting panic in the middle. Now, you still have anxiety and relief in your list in the name, which is super strong, but because it's not as strong as possible, you're not getting the most you can out of it. And panic relief, which is the keyword that is just attached, is just not as good. So what you want to do is remove this or move it somewhere else. Again, focus on what works. I think anxiety relief could work, and that would be easier. Do the same for the subtitle, and look for keywords where maybe other apps are using, maybe the algorithm understands in this context. I should write a guide about this. Maybe that's the next video. Who knows? And that will give you at least more visibility. Now, I'm not entirely sure what I think about this icon. I don't think it's bad, and I don't see any problem with it. I'm sure you can A/B test it, given that a lot of these try to emulate Headspace. I wouldn't do that, but let's just go with the icon is probably good enough, and that's okay. What I do see in the screenshots, I think you have room for improvement. So this is an app about anxiety, and when I look at this, there's a lot going on. Big text. I do like the fonts, I have to say. I think they speak to me. They're very similar to a font that we saw before, but here they work better. There's just a lot going on here. The text is big. There are colors. There's light. There's dark. There's an iPhone. There's a thing under the iPhone. There's a thing within the iPhone. Just way too much. I want to be calm. The name of the app is Calmer, so help me be calmer. I do like the second screenshot because I think it works. Now, I don't like the text in this. I think the text in this is very misleading, but I do like the simplicity, and I like that there are people, and I like the idea that this person is breathing, or at least that's why we're seeing their lungs, would be my guess. I would right now flip these two, or maybe start an A/B test where you flip these two, and what that's going to tell you, what that's going to do is, I think it's going to simplify a lot, and it's going to increase conversion. Now, I don't like when I see apps saying they're the number one for something, because realistically, if you were the number one for something, everyone would know about you outside of the App Store. You wouldn't have to tout it. You wouldn't have to say it. But when you say you're the number one, immediately in most people's minds, it's like, but I don't know this. So, just this icky feeling. But honestly, with 3 ratings, you can't be the number one stress relief toolkit. And with a name like Calmer, that seems like Calm, I think you're trying to insinuate you're related to Calm. And if that's the case, maybe. But I don't think that's the case. So show off with what you can show off with. Don't pretend, don't do anything else. If this is actually researched backed and this is approved by clinical psychologists, like, say that out loud. That's really the thing you're showing off with. Tell me you're number one when you're not number one is just going to make me run away, because if you lie right here, what would I think about the rest of the app? And I say this, and I know it sounds a little bit mean, but people are harsh. And people most times don't think about this the way that we do. So the logic is applied deep within them, and they're just going to move on. They're not going to tell you why they're moving on. They're not going to verbalize it. They're not going to think about it. They're just moving on. You lost a user this way. So I would change that to something like approved by clinical psychologists. I would make this research-backed. I would remove all of this, because that has to do with ratings and the App Store. And you can't really show off with your ratings if you only have 3. People are they're not oblivious. Maybe oblivious is not the right word, but they will see through this, and I think it's going to work against you. Not even be neutral, just going to be a pure negative. So I would change that. Again, with the other screenshots, I would simplify them a lot more. There's just a lot going on here. I said technical before, not the right term, but just too much. It's condensed. I like the idea of you telling me what the app will do. Stop panic attacks before they escalate. Maybe give me a little bit of hint of a how, because I don't necessarily see I do want to stop them, but how do I stop them? And beyond that, just tell me the story of how is this going to make my life better. You're doing a good job. This is not terrible. So I just want to point out that there are little things. And in a lot of these cases, it's really all about the little things that you can do. And that's why A/B testing is so important, because sometimes when you make a change, you're not going to know if it moved the needle enough. But sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And A/B testing is the easiest way to know this, especially now that it's just built into the App Store and into Google Play. You just have to use it. So that's what I would say to Calmer. Now, I had 3 more apps on the list. We don't have any more time. That's where my clock is. But I will be back next week, and I will do more, and I will start with these 3 that I didn't do today. So if your name was on the list and you're like, oh man, tune back in next Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. We'll send an email about this, and you will see this. As always, if you have any questions or anything else, make sure to drop it in the comments later, because the chat goes away. So drop it in the comments, and I will do my best to answer it. I say this every time, and sometimes I answer them, and sometimes I don't get to them, but I will get to them eventually. So drop them in the chat, and you will get an answer. Otherwise, I'll leave a link to all my socials and my email so you can get in touch with me if you want to follow up. That's pretty much all I have for you today. Next week, we're going to be doing the same thing. So if you didn't get your app on the big screen, make sure to submit it. Link is in the description, and I will see you next week.